But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, Elise, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull. And hope everybody's doing well today. Hello, Hugh Salter. I don't think I've seen you before. Many question marks to you too. Always like a few question marks. Good way to start out a stream. Let's get our windows where we need them. I had a little more time than usual to prepare this evening, so I was looking through to see what kind of bullshit we could look at. Yesterday we were looking at Bill Clinton's bullshit. We've got today we've got a whole new crop of crap to look at here. Let's see. We've got some stuff from the Young Turfs. We've got some stuff from Weed Lord. I'm actually kind of curious about this one. It's a short one. Why don't we start out? Apparently, Pim Tool blocked Weed Lord on Twitter over something or other. Hey, Riveroon. Ooh, exclamation marks too. We're getting all the punctuation. Love it. Love it. Oh, hang on now. That's not what I was trying to click. Get back there. Come on, hit back. No. There we go. Let's just see. I'm curious. This is just 2 minutes.
Do you guys see I called Tim out?
God, Weedlord. That's a new look on Weedlord. Now he looks like about 1990s Kevin Kline. Oh, and one of those fucking V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes masks, which I have to say, like, it's a great way of, I found, like, you can generally tell assholes by the possession of those things.
And a bunch of the
there are
boys
exceptions,
get
but
mad. They get so mad at me. There's a bunch of people. So let me just show you this. I just think it's funny. So Tim posted this.
Ooh, an Interrobang.
He said, "I've been playing Magic longer than you." Now, I remember when he bought this.
Oh, we're gonna get into some Islamic phobic racist shit, I'm pretty sure.
Because I was sitting next to him when he bought it. It was when I was still on the show.
This is what he got blocked over. That is just such. That is more or less what I would expect, actually.
And
I've been playing Magic longer than you. Oh, shut the fuck up.
He bought a bunch
Fucking
of cards
right-wing nerdland.
when Magic the Gathering was canceling stuff. Okay? And I said, "Didn't you buy that in 2020? No hate. Now, I wasn't even hating, right? I'm just like, "Didn't you buy that in 2020? Like, it's so silly."
Well, he's changed his layout, too. He got the fucking flag, some sort of bullshit from the Air Force. can't quite make out what that says, other than United States Air Force. And mushrooms.
I thought it was so funny. But man, people freaking... They hate when I poke fun at Tim.
Because it's so fucking easy. That's what everybody does.
And, it's
and
like,
you're not as good at it as most.
Like, I like poking fun at Tim. I have no issues with Tim.
That's why you're not as good at it. Those of us who do have issues with Pim Tool are much better at taking the piss out of him.
People are trying to say that I'm jealous of Tim. I'm like, do you understand how good my life is? Like, how much I love my life? I have a beautiful son. I have a beautiful house. I have a beautiful life. I have an amazing family. Like, my life is great. I'm about to make some moves that
Okay, I don't know if I want to see him making moves.
Like, I don't need Tim. I don't.
He doesn't need Tim! Well, like, does anyone feel like they need Tim? God, that would be a sad place to be if you felt you needed Tim Pool.
Want to be a part of that anymore? Like, I love my life.
A few moments later.
Wow, okay. That is on brand. So, okay, I was just curious about that. We got a bunch of other Weedlord stuff. Yeah, he's got a thing on Project 2025, which I imagine is a hot mess. And he brought fucking so-called Tommy Robinson, the English neo-Nazi, also, like a lot of neo-Nazis, very pro-Israel. Yeah, very connected to the, like, Israel lobby in Britain. We brought him onto the show. That could be interesting. Biden-Harris destroyed science with DEI! Then we've got some Xanderhole. AOC and Tim Waltz streaming games on Twitch is peak politics, apparently. Trump works as a garbage man after Joe Biden calls Trump supporters garbage. And, like, who the hell let him do that, incidentally? Who thought that was the image that you wanted to go, at this late stage of the campaign? Him driving around in circles in a fucking garbage truck with his name on it. I mean, the memes write themselves and they aren't Trump memes. Andrew Tate's buddy? What, Tommy Robinson is? That doesn't surprise me. I mean, his fucking EDL is full of nonsense. Then we've got the Tim Pool Sam Cedar debate on the culture war, apparently. That'll be... Journalists argue that the U.S. is swinging to the right! Well, the Young Turfs is certainly swinging to the right. J.D. Vance's unhinged take on transgender kids, the Young Turfs again. And I'm actually sort of cringing already, because it's like they've already made it clear they have absolutely no intention of, like, of defending trans people against right-wing bullshit. Because they've decided to sort of triangulate their way to make sure that Democrats don't look bad when they do transphobic shit. So, okay. Then there's also Brianna Wu says she didn't change. The progressive movement did. Any particular preferences there? And also, Hugh Salter, just out of curiosity, how'd you find me? I'm always kind of curious how people find their way over to me, because not a whole lot of people do, and it's just always interesting to me when somebody does. I mean, kind of Weedlord on Project 2025, or Weedlord on Biden-Harris destroying science with DEI. That's a short. I think we'll start out with that one. Fuck it. Let's do it. I love how in the right-wing bullshitosphere,
Corruption.
you have this thing where, like, one or two people on Twitter, mostly Chris Rufo of the Manhattan Institute, will come up with some bullshit talking point, and then suddenly everybody fucking adopts it.
Of science. Oh, what's
I mean, that's where pretending to be pissed off about critical race theory originated. That's where, like, pretending you don't know what groomer means in order to, like, paint a target on queer people originated. That was Chris Rufo's thing. And he just says shit on Twitter. And then all these pricks then just come out and start using it like clockwork.
I haven't seen this one. Following a report from Senate Commerce and Ted Cruz, we launched multiple investigations and filed a lawsuit against the National Science Foundation.
Wow, I mean, what were Texas A&M doing with the cocks?
Regarding the misuse of billions of dollars in federal research funds by Biden-Harris to promote illegal DEI.
Okay, I mean, this is already such nonsense. So first of all, we have this far-right, like, litigation mill. And the idea, see, I mean, they try to make this thing out of DEI, when all it is an HR thing. It's basically something that they hope will look good in court when they get sued for discrimination. That's, like, literally all it is. It's a legal cover-your-ass thing. But apparently...
Wow. What? Does he continue? Let's see. Immediately upon taking power, the Biden-Harris White House created a task force on scientific integrity. Holy shit. To provide a review of the impact on the scientific integrity.
That doesn't even make sense. The impact of what on the scientific integrity of diversity, equity, and inclusion practices? Yeah, that sentence is not a sentence. That sentence doesn't grammar.
Of diversity, equity, and inclusion practice.
I guess it must be. I guess it's football. I just didn't know that there was a team called Cox, and I just like the idea of of Texas A&M like playing some sort of sports against just a field full of cocks. I think that's just an interesting mental image to play around with.
At all science-related agencies. Wow.
Like, wow, what? There's no subject enough to provide a review of the impact of what on the scientific integrity of, DEI practices.
Wild. Holy shit.
Like, all they're doing here is they're taking this buzzword, which is, just an HR thing. Just an HR thing. It's a cover-your-ass thing so that when these companies or agencies, eventually end up in court for, like, sexual harassment or, racial discrimination or, what the things that they like to do, they can say, look, we clearly do not intend to discriminate against anyone because we have a designated DEI officer. That's the whole fucking thing. That's what I mean. So all this is what they're just using. They're suing based on the fact that the word was used.
Days in the first week, memorandum on restoring trust in government through scientific integrity and evidence-based policymaking.
Would have been nice if something of the sort were implemented. I mean, as anyone who actually pays attention to the ongoing pandemic knows, it wasn't.
Holy shit!
Holy shit, what? There's literally nothing here. Like, what are you holy shitting over, Weed Lord? You haven't actually, like, what's the smoking gun here? They have a memorandum on restoring trust in government. Well, like, of course they fucking do. They have a memorandum on everything.
This is real.
Based on what? Based on the fact that they have a memorandum on restoring trust in government?
Wow. It's the Ministry of Truth.
Wow, exactly, Weed Lord. It's the Ministry of Truth. It is totally George Orbach, 1964. Absolutely, it is the Ministry of Truth. Like, I mean, he's just reading the fucking title of the thing. And if you look at the actual tweet that had, all it had was the first page of the complaint that they filed. And if you know anything about how these things are structured in U.S. Court filings, the only thing that you will see on that first page is paragraphs explaining why the court they filed the thing in has jurisdiction. Like, that's it. So there was not a single, like, substantive allegation. He's like he's like going wild because he read a jurisdictional allegation. Let me see, what did it say? I mean, it's gonna be boilerplate. It's gonna be total boilerplate. Let's come on. Let's go a little back. Yeah, this court. Okay. Well, let me.
EI. Wow.
To compel compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. So this is not, okay, this is not, they're not actually suing them for, like, damages or anything like that. All they're doing is suing them to gain access to documents that apparently were withheld when they filed a Freedom of Information Act FOIA request. And, okay, so that's the only thing, okay. So it's a FOIA lawsuit, is all this is. This court has jurisdiction over this action pursuant to Title V U.S.C. Section 552A4B and 28 U.S.C. Section 1331. Additionally, it made it granted. Yeah, like, wow. Weed Lord, would you like to explain what any of those words mean? I would love to hear you try to explain what the jurisdiction and venue paragraphs in this thing actually mean that you're, like, fucking wowing over. Or is it the addresses?
Immediately upon taking power, White House created a task force on scientific integrity. Holy shit!
Wow, holy shit!
And a review of the impact on the scientific integrity of diversity, equity, and inclusion practices at all science-related agencies. Wow. Wild. Holy shit.
Hola, Ignacio, ¿cómo estás?
The first week. Memorandum on restoring trust in government through scientific integrity and evidence-based policymaking. Holy shit! This is real! Wow!
Well, I mean, this motherfucker is so easy to get excited.
Ministry of Truth! Through taking over science!
Yeah, except that it doesn't say anything. Like, if you wanted to, who knows what it's knowing these memos, because I will read policy memos sometimes, and they are mostly dedicated to finding ways to not say a whole lot and be very deniable. But he's just looking at the fucking headline, and the headline is just totally innocuous stuff, and he's already like, wow. This is Aldous Huxley.
What?
Sí. Vamos a ver si ganan los republicanos de cast o los republicanos del otro cast. Porque aquí lo que tenemos como alternativa son dos fascistas. Dos genocidas culiados que están compitiendo uno con otra por ver qué tan facho pueden ser. Es la elección más absurda de mi vida.
Can't believe I'm reading this.
I don't think you are reading this if by reading we include comprehension. Okay. So now we actually... Later, the White House and NSF ordered agencies to include... Okay, and accessibility, which is to say stuff for, like, people with disabilities, at least sort of minimum concerns there. Okay. SIOs must consider the impacts of their determinations and corrective scientific actions in the same light and should mitigate any concerns for a fair and equitable outcome. Greater agency efforts will be needed to monitor the impacts of federal science and science-informed policies on underrepresented groups. Wow, it's so, that's, wow. Holy shit. Who's this fucking guy?
Wow.
No, incluso es más genocida. Si te has fijado en lo que ha dicho respecto de la política exterior, está criticando a Trump por no ser supuestamente lo suficientemente agresivo frente al Irán, que es absurdo porque Trump atacó al Irán. Trump lanzó un ataque al Irán. O sea, arriesgó una guerra con la weá. Y ahora la Harris dice que no es lo suficiente matón.
Later, the White House and NSF ordered agencies to incorporate DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, considerations into all aspects of science, planning, execution, and communication.
Oh shit, it said execution!
Destroying science completely.
Well, okay, come on, okay, Weedlord, let's hear it. What is science? Like, literally, that didn't say anything, it's worth noting. That section, like, there's no specifics in there. That can literally be interpreted any way you want. So, it's meaningless.
Mind you. Right? I mean, this isn't science then. What? This is propaganda. Let's see, what's this? Okay, this is directly from their protecting the integrity of government science. What a nightmarish statement.
Well, like, is he real or is he like Gen AI? Because he's like reacting to things that don't say anything as if they said things. Like, he clearly does not know how to read a document like this, because the headlines almost never tell you shit about what it's about. You have to dig very deeply into like the middle of paragraphs of these long ass sentences to find any kind of specifics about what it's actually supposed to be. He's just looking at headlines that say innocuous things and going, holy shit, that's a smoking gun there. Wow, they're gonna protect the integrity of science. Like,
the top of this paper says protecting the integrity of government science.
Like, yes, as in the government has all sorts of scientific agencies. You did know that. You did know that there are like agencies belonging to the government that are supposed to do science, like the National Institutes of Health, for example, like fucking DARPA to some extent, although they mostly contract science out. Like, this is not like what explain to us where the smoking gun is here, please, Weedlord.
Oh God, government science. What is that you say? Well,
yes, tell us. I want to be educated.
Tell you, it's what the government approves.
Yeah, of course.
The government approved science that we're allowed to know. Holy crap.
It literally just means the various scientific agencies of the federal government. It just means people who are doing science for the federal government.
Embedded DEIA issues into scientific integrity policies. Scientific integrity policies need to explicitly recognize and aim to protect against policy violations that have a disproportionate impact on underrepresented groups or weaken the equitable delivery of federal government programs.
Holy shit. They're looking to look into policy violations under certain circumstances. Fuck, no, it's game over, man.
Can you play Flawed's Mark?
Is this guy an ignoramus? I'm gonna say yes. At the very least, he plays one on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe he gets off of this thing having like grifted large amounts of money from a bunch of dickheads, and starts talking and like goes to like read Kant or something like that, and he turns out to actually. Although I'm not saying, but he certainly performs ignoramus.
Marxism song? You don't have it queued up?
Wait, there's a he's got the Weed Lord Marxism song.
My producer is just the worst. I don't know what I have. Deal with you later.
See, because when you're talking about DEI policies in scientific agencies of the U.S. federal government, obviously you need the Marxism song. Like, come on, Weed Lord's producer. How did you not know that this was going to be a thing where you need the Marxism song, which I'm actually low-key curious about, because I think that'll be...
It's Marxism. Equity, inclusion. This is just insane. I can't believe I'm reading this.
You're really not, though.
And this has been around for years. Week 1 into Biden's presidency, this was established.
Why don't you tell us what you think any of this means, Weed Lord?
Holy shit!
I mean, all he's doing is like reacting to things. Like he just reads some extremely boring and mostly nothing boilerplate language and freaks out. That's his whole thing.
SIO's light should mitigate any concerns for a fair and equitable outcome. Greater agency efforts will be needed to monitor the impacts of federal science and science-informed policies on underrepresented groups. Science-informed policies based on the science that they're implementing, though.
What?
You see how backwards that is? You can't make science-informed policies based on science that you're implementing yourself.
What do you think that implementing... What? Like, what does this mean? Like, so the idea is that if you're doing science, then for some reason it's unseemly to direct your further efforts, orientate your further efforts based on the results of the science you do. Like, what the fuck? Like, what does this explain? Explain.
Some communistic Marxist way. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us where the Okay, everybody. Where's the communism in this? I missed it.
I have to read more.
Yeah, you really ought to read more. Like, you should read at least some.
Incorporate DEIA considerations into all aspects of science planning, execution, and communication.
God.
Such as deliberate approach.
Yeah, it really is. This is totally anti-dueling right here. This is the Communist Manifesto, as Weed Lord once referred to it. Clearly. Box 4-2, the traditions of prior generations weigh on the living like a nightmare. Abolition of the family. The bourgeoisie is outraged over our plans to abolish the family. Wait, that's not actually in there.
Can help mitigate bias and ensure research efforts to help to build an evidence base of effective approaches to advocate science and equity. Emphasizing DEI in all part of scientific process helps to ensure that one, scientists can be adequately trained on its importance.
That's not what it says.
And potential negative impacts of inclusion on science.
Of exclusion, you dickhead.
Wow. Scientific research focuses on research questions, samples, and settings that reflect the diversity of the U.S. population. 3.
Ooh, wow. I mean, that must be some kind of communism, surely.
Data.
Like, I mean, we're talking about making sure that science that has to do with, studies of the population reflects the actual composition of the population. That must be some kind of communism, right?
And sufficiently disaggregated where possible by demographic variables to facilitate identification and analysis of issues affecting people from all backgrounds.
Okay, break it down for us, Weedlord. What did that paragraph mean?
We talked, George made a really good point, and I want to bring this up. George the Giant Slayer. If you don't know George the Giant Slayer, please go follow him on his channel. He's awesome.
That seems to be a good recommendation for somebody to dunk on. I'm actually now curious about this dickhead. Who the hell is George the Giant? Anyone, chat, you heard of George the Giant Slayer? Harry and Meghan epic panic. Okay, he's obsessed with Harry and Meghan. He does a review on Twat Mulch's movie Am I a Racist? Wait, how much fucking Harry and Meghan content does this motherfucker have? Like, the first 2 rows, it's like Twat Mulch and Harry and Meghan. It's all Harry and Meghan. What the fuck is this? The Daily Mail? Here, let me just link you this in chat. Like, this is, this channel is just this dude, obsessing over Harry and Meghan.
A show on Monday. He said something really amazing. He said, America was the melting pot.
Wow, nobody ever said that before.
They took that away. It was a melting pot. And what that meant was people would become American. It didn't matter what your race was.
Oh, wait, yeah. I mean, when were we talking about when race didn't matter in the U.S.? Was that during Jim Crow or during slavery?
Creed was whatever. You became an American citizen.
Well, which it's worth noting. It used to be a hell of a lot easier to become a U.S. citizen. The immigration laws are, especially the extremely restrictive immigration laws that exist in the U.S. since, the 1980s, really. That's a relatively new thing. I mean, for quite a long time, you could just kind of come over without, you just pay for a ticket or even, literally just stow away, come over, and nobody gave a shit as long as you weren't carrying TB or obviously, carrying revolutionary literature or something like that that could get you into some trouble.
This is destroying that through science now.
Yes, it's destroying the melting pot through science. Apparently. Sorry. Through
their science, through what they're calling science, for what they're telling the population is science. This is amazing because, usually when you have some sort of right-wing conspiratorial shit, there's at least something behind it. There's something you can point to where it's if you misinterpret it sufficiently, you can see where somebody would be like, oh wow, that's dodgy. This isn't even that.
It's literally nothing. The whole thing is based on him apparently not understanding what any of this shit means.
This is them embedding themselves even further into society and corrupting it at the...
Wait, so he thinks that the United States government was not already pretty embedded in the society of the United States? I think you'll find, actually, that the U.S. government has been embedded in this society for quite some time.
The core. I'm just bewildered by this.
Yeah, I buy that. He definitely seems bewildered. I mean, chat, this is bewilderment. This is one bewildered weed lord.
Let's move on from this and see what else there is. All right, October 9th, Ted Cruz, the ranking member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, issued a shocking and groundbreaking report finding that the NSF has awarded more than $2 billion in federal funding to thousands of...
That sounds like a lot of money to people who don't know how big the federal budget is. $2 billion is a statistical error.
...scientific research project that promoted DEI or pushed neo-Marxist perspectives about enduring
neo-Marxist
class struggle, taxpayer money.
Oh, I want to hear about the enduring class struggle research.
Being $2 billion.
Well, I mean, and if Ted Cruz says it, I mean, you definitely, you can take that to the bank. You don't need to check that out.
On pushing Marxism in science. This is insane. This is anti-American. Holy crap. The report analyzed over 32,000 Prime Award grants between January 2021 and April 24. The data showed that only 0.29% of all grants that start dates in 2021.
Hey, like, he's not gonna... Is he gonna, like, show more? Is he gonna at least try to read the entire tweet?
Centered on DEI initiatives. But by 2024, more than a quarter, 27% of all new grants did. That's crazy.
Wait. What he's saying... Okay, let me see. This report, when was this? All new grants okay, more than a quarter of all new grants versus 0.29% of all grants. Like, okay, of all grants with start dates in 2021, okay. But by 2024, more than a quarter of all new grants. New grants as of when, though? It doesn't say.
The 27% pushed this divisive, dangerous, and illegal perspective totaling $2 billion.
Like, there is nothing in this. Like, the thing is, when you read, like, a document that is, like, a real bombshell, one of the ways you know is, well, you quote it. You quote the dodgy bits. Because those are the bits that are telling. This doesn't do this. All it does is, it's just reiterating DEI bad, DEI dangerous, or whatever. Social justice related grants totaled a staggering staggering to whom? 1.6 billion is fuck all in the federal budget. They probably spend that much on office equipment for the Department of Commerce.
Of this social justice related grants totaling a staggering 1.6 billion. Holy shit. Okay, so it's not 27% of the 2 billion. That's the 27%.
Which is nothing.
Holy shit. Following the...
Oh, they are investigating. I love that.
Following up on Cruz's report, we are investigating. NSF...
See, all they're doing here is they're making... these are FOIA... all a FOIA lawsuit is you either think or you know that certain information, certain documents that you're entitled to were withheld on the FOIA request you sent to the responsible agency. Like, what they're doing here is making it look like that means that there's some sort of impropriety going on here. I mean, but without actually pointing out what it supposedly is, other than just throwing the word DEI around a lot.
Election process regarding 5 of the most egregious social justice related grant awards highlighted in the
Egregious too. They're egregious.
At NSF was appointed by the Biden-Harris administration. AFL initially filed a Freedom of Information Act request for those reports on May 9th, 2023, but to date has not received any substantive response from the agency. Not surprising at all, probably because it's absolutely damning and they're about to lose anyway.
I mean, if it's so damning, surely we would have seen something damning by now. Fucking Weedlord looks at the back of his cereal box and he's like, holy shit, snap, crackle, and pop? This is Orwellian.
They can't have anything to make themselves look bad. Influenced by the Biden-Harris
They don't seem to be all that bothered about looking bad, actually.
House into federal research funding at the National Science Foundation, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the National Institute of Standards.
So the idea is that the government had influence on federal agencies? That's just how the government works.
And technology, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Of course the government had influence.
The Department of Defense and the Department for...
Notice they don't even say undue influence. They don't suggest that there is, like, improper influence. They're just saying that the White House had influence. Which, of course it did, because the White House is in charge of all the shit.
Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, all of them, holy shit, infected by Marxism. We've also filed a lawsuit...
No. Come on, bring it home, Weedlord. Where's the Marxism?
National Science Foundation for illegally concealing the government records of the agency's officials approving these grants. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Good stuff. America First Legal. Incredible. Not
yeah, exactly. Not credible.
Surprising at all. Is anyone...
You sounded kind of surprised, but mostly I think that's probably because you didn't understand what you read.
Unsurprised at all. I don't even... I'm not shocked.
You acted kind of shocked. Are you saying that was an act?
It's just par for the course for these Democrats.
Like, that was literally just nothing. Hola, Kikeme. Yes, apparently Marxism is just fucking anything anymore. Okay, I'm feeling like a little more Weedlord personally. That was special. That was a very special episode of Weedlord and Friends, but without the friends, because apparently Tim Pool blocked him on Twitter over the most ridiculous shit ever.
Project 2025 has been used as this boogeyman for a long time, or this straw man of Donald Trump. This is what they attack. They don't actually attack Trump's policies, because Trump's policies...
Well, I mean, the point is that a lot of this stuff looks like it actually is his policies. Of course, some of it is very consistent with certain policies of the Democrats as well, like, I mean, the censorship of LGBT people in the so-called Kids Online Safety Act, that sort of shit. But yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of fair to say that people who are very close to, like, the Trump administration and really kind of, I mean, not administration, but like campaign and highly influential in Washington in general, probably will have some say on what kind of policies will be followed.
Are actually really good.
So okay, so he's going to do another close reading, another Weed Lord close reading. This will be good because remember, I mean, we just saw how he uncovered the Marxism in a really boring white paper on science policy.
I want people to understand that Trump is actually trying to do things that will help Americans. They can't do that because, of course, that would be bad for the Democrats. They want...
Well, I mean, also, you'd have to find something that he was trying to do that actually would help people. And there's no evidence that that's happening.
Trump look bad, so...
It isn't... Yeah, it would be so hard to make Trump look bad. I mean, the motherfucker just gives us these open goals. Like, going... The fucking garbage truck, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's hard to make that guy look bad.
To quote Nancy Pelosi, a wrap-up schmear. That's what she called it. And I actually... I'll play the video of her saying this. Where
Yeah, please do, because those words don't make any fucking sense to each other.
they make up a lie, feed it to the media runs with it, and then they use the articles that have come out by the media as like to legitimize.
I mean, a schmear, that's Yiddish for anyone unfamiliar, and it refers to something that you put on bread, or, you know, it's a spread. I mean, on a bagel or whatever, lox or something. So, I mean, what the fuck, a wrap-up schmear? I mean, that doesn't even make sense as a phrase.
The original argument that they were using, or the story that they were using, right? That's what this is. It's just, it's a real thing. Don't be mistaken. Project 2025 is something that's out there. It does exist.
Wow, okay, so we got confirmation. It's a thing. It exists. It is out there someplace.
It is this conservative religious group that it's called the Heritage. It's
The Heritage. This motherfucker doesn't know what the Heritage Foundation is?
called Heritage. This is it. The Heritage Foundation. These are the
Got
people
it.
that put Project 2025
Third time's the charm, Weed Lord.
together. And I'll just read to you what Heritage Foundation claims to be, right? Or
Yeah, and I'm sure he's gonna bring the same energy to this that he did to that extremely boring science policy document that he was freaking out over every other paragraph.
what they are. Every day, the Heritage Foundation is building an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. Heritage's mission is to formulate and promote public policies based on principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense.
Okay, now he's gonna rip into this, I'm sure.
I mean, on the surface, it's pretty good. Honestly, it seems pretty great. Then here we go again, providing solutions. They really do.
Whoa, they provide solutions. Wow.
Put out solutions. Some people don't agree with those solutions, but we'll get to that. Researching, developing, and promoting innovative solutions.
That doesn't fucking mean anything.
Number 2, mobilizing conservatives, uniting the conservative movement to work together. I think that's actually really important.
Yeah, but the thing is, even the most basic political science student is not as basic as Weed Lord.
Training leaders.
Weed Lord is so basic, the first line of his code reads 10 print.
Preparing future generations who will lead America. Again, it's all good stuff.
It's all nothing, and it's meant to be nothing.
I like it, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, yeah, because it says fucking nothing.
sounded pretty good to me. Now more than ever, the American people need a champion to preserve the great American experiment and everything good and just that it represents. That's why the Heritage Foundation exists. We champion policy solutions that benefit all
Well, like, this is just their fucking advertising copy.
Americans. But Heritage is also much more than a think tank. Every day, Heritage works in our nation's capital to build an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. But unlike
Okay, so they're just repeating the shit that they already said in the headline. But what does any of that mean? Remember the freak out just a minute ago when he was like, "Holy shit, they want to monitor the impact of sampling bias on underrepresented populations. That's Marxism." And now he's just reading this anodyne crap. And he's like, "Oh yeah, sounds legit."
so many other organizations in Washington, D.C.
Is this literally the first time he's ever heard of the Heritage Foundation? Is that what this is?
Focus isn't on putting more power into the hands of government. It's on returning power to the people.
Which people?
That's why we don't work on behalf of any special interest or political party.
Yeah, I mean, that's because they kind of work on behalf of all of capital.
Instead, our commitment is to the American people.
Ooh,
and
of
the
course.
more than 10 million members, advocates, and concerned Americans who support us. Heritage's world-renowned experts, deeply experienced...
Okay, is he just gonna read this entire thing?
Business, government, the military, nonprofits, academia, and communications spend each day developing innovative solutions.
Ooh, there's that word again, innovative. I know I'm sold. That tells me everything I need to know. Sign me up. Innovative.
To the issues America faces, from empowering parents in education,
Which means, I mean, let's just remember, this means for compulsory outing of queer kids in school to their abusive parents who they're afraid to come out to.
reversing growing spending and inflation, and protecting the unborn,
Ooh,
to securing America's borders,
killing refugees.
countering the threat of communist China, or communist, let's just be real, holding big tech accountable, and ensuring free and fair elections. Heritage is on the front lines in the fight to help Americans thrive.
Wow. So they're in favor of Americans thriving, whatever that means. Wow. How could anyone object to this organization?
Our team then takes these solutions directly to decision makers in government to turn ideas into action.
Which is called lobbying.
Heritage has been consistently ranked the #1 think tank in the world for it.
So they're a think tank that specializes in piss, apparently. That's what I'm getting.
I'll be honest though, I had never heard of them before this.
Yeah, I can tell, Weedlord, and that's wild, because they're not exactly unknown. And your whole thing is you bullshit about politics on the internet. And you do so in a cinematic universe that is surrounded by people who are in one way or another connected to the Heritage Foundation, and you never heard of it? I wouldn't admit that.
Granted, I feel like I'm still new in the political landscape. I know.
Which is, I mean, wild, because he's been, on fucking political YouTube, podcasts and shit for years. And so he's saying that he was managed in that time not to know anything.
I've been doing this for 4 years, but I don't just do politics. It's not necessarily what I do. I'm aware of politics. I
thought you kind of just said you weren't, though. You kind of, because that's kind of a big thing not to be aware of.
Thought about and follow a lot of political pundits that I think are trustworthy. To the level that anyone on the internet is trustworthy, right?
Well, this guy's on the internet. How how dubious could it possibly be? Clearly, if this guy's on the internet, it's pretty trustworthy.
But reading through this, it doesn't seem that bad. Right?
Well, you're not actually reading their concrete ideas for what should be done, are you? You're just reading their fucking their filler. This is them explaining how innocuous they are. Of course it doesn't sound that bad.
Right? This just feels like the conservative version of what I think most institutions are for Democrats. Because it is weighted way in the Democrats' favor. It feels like they have almost all the institutions.
What are you defining as the institutions?
Reminds me of there's a node map of where donations come from.
I've got a node map like that. I've been mining. If you go, there's a great website. Really highly recommend using it. It's called SourceWatch, operated by a nonprofit called the Center for Media and Democracy. And what they do is they monitor the flows of donations to think tanks and media outlets and stuff, and you can see where the money is coming from. And where it's going, what sort of organizations it's going to, and what people are connected to what things. It is really indispensable for anyone who's trying to analyze media, because you can look up, you'll see, these sources from these think tanks and stuff like that, and the question becomes, okay, the name of the think tank sounds wonderful. It's the Center for All Good Things. That couldn't possibly be a bad thing, right? But you kind of want to just be sure, and you look up, oh wow, they're completely funded by the Koch brothers, and their biggest thing was denying the Holocaust. Wow, okay, maybe not a great source to be using.
Have you seen this? I just thought of this right now, so I don't have it up to show you right now, but I can describe it fairly easily.
Okay.
When someone donates to a Democrat or a Republican, a node map showing where this money comes from.
Well, it comes from the person who donated it.
Versus Republican. The Republicans get maybe 3 groups total that only give money to them.
Well, yes, okay, and what he's saying here is actually not wrong. I was actually looking at, here's another great source. This is a source for information on campaign donations. It's called opensecrets.org. Great website, and it's true, actually. There are only, relatively few. I mean, not, I think maybe 20 or 30 major funders, major donors who only donate to Republicans. Most donors, most companies, most organizations hedge their bets, and because they want to have influence with whoever gets in. So they tend to donate to both. But only a handful will exclusively donate to Republicans. That isn't wrong. I just happened to be going on opensecrets.org just the other day. I wanted to see where the money was flowing from in this particular campaign. And what he said there isn't wrong.
There's a lot of purple in the middle, but the amount of
considero que es como comparar la peste con la cólera. Son terribles, pero de manera un poco distinta, pero igual va a ser el gobierno que surja de esta elección, esta farsa de elección, va a ser un gobierno de horror. Y eso lo sabemos ya, porque podemos ver el horror que se está permitiendo el gobierno actual. Si gana Harris, va a ser horrible. Si gana Trump, va a ser horrible. Va a ser una mierda, salga quien salga.
Institutions that only give money to Democrats is astounding. It is 95-1 or 90.
Well, actually, overwhelmingly what you have is institutions that hedge their bets and donate to both. Although there are a fair number who will donate overwhelmingly to one side and then just throw in a little bit to the other. You know, it's bet hedging.
5% only to Democrats. That's like the majority of institutions.
This is not, that doesn't make sense. The majority of institutions. Because the question is, what institutions? What kind of money are we talking about? Like, how much money is flowing from which institutions? Because, yeah, what the fuck do you mean by institutions in the first place? Are we talking, like, fucking think tanks? Are we talking trade groups? Are we talking unions? Are we talking fucking, companies? What the fuck do you mean by institutions?
Colleges. What am I trying to think of?
Who knows?
All sorts of different institutions.
Stuff. It's stuff.
It's unions. That's what I couldn't think of. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, unions are more likely to donate to the Democrats because the Democrats are somewhat less openly hostile to them. Like, they know that they're not going to get shit from Republicans one way or another. There's no point in wasting their money.
Yeah, the different unions, like maybe the police union, I think maybe be one of the ones that goes Republican.
Yes, very strongly. And is actually not just like goes Republican, but you look at the people who are in charge of these so-called police unions, and see, it was interesting. For a while, you got a lot of interviews with like top sorry, police association bosses and stuff like that, and they didn't understand about blocking out the background on Zoom or whatever, and so you would just see Nazi shit on their shelves. And those are like the elected leaders of these organizations.
But it's crazy. The amount of weight of money that's behind the Democrats versus the Republicans, or I don't even want to say Republicans, because I do believe that there is a uniparty that just kind of chooses behind the scene how they control stuff.
Wow, is he like accidentally doing a Marxism?
Whereas like the MAGA party, the Americans that are trying to regain sovereignty, right?
It is so wild that is like a far right talking point in the U.S. The U.S. is the country that other countries are trying to regain sovereignty from.
That's what I think Trump represents. That's what I think MAGA represents.
What does sovereignty mean to you, Weed Lord?
Make America sovereign again. Really.
Look, what does that mean?
Although, it doesn't sound good when you.
No, it doesn't.
Instead of MAGA.
That doesn't sound good either, actually. But okay.
Massa.
Oh, see, I was going to pronounce it massa, like dough, but actually, when he pronounces it that way, it's actually kind of works.
Connotation. But anyway.
Yes, a very accurate connotation, actually. Thank you. Very Freudian.
So one of the main things that this is around is Project 2025. That's what the Democrats, that's what these liberals, the Kamala Harris and Biden have been basically saying, this is what's wrong with Trump. This is what Trump's nightmare. This is what we're going to live with if Trump gets...
And the wild thing about this, it's really interesting, is you look at the attacks from the Democrats on Trump, and they actually try to avoid talking about the really horrible shit he did a lot of the time. They don't want to talk about like kids in cages and stuff. Now they're like talking about how he didn't do enough of that stuff. Like, he talks a good racist game, but he doesn't, like, kill as many people on the border as he says he's going to. And all this shit, and it's like...
Back in power. It all comes from this book called The Mandate for Leadership. The Conservative Promise.
Yeah, Mandate for Leadership is actually the name of the big policy document the Heritage Foundation puts out in every single election. I mean, that was the name of it when Reagan got in as well. I think it's probably they call it that every time.
Okay, and it's Project 2025's Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise. Now this is very long. It's a book, right? It's a full-on book. I'll be honest, I didn't read this.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked. He didn't read this, chat. Aren't you shocked that he didn't read this?
It's 400 something pages. 700 pages. Okay, 700 pages. But I know a lot of the bullet points.
Without reading it.
Okay. And I mean, you can see when you look up Project 2025, you know what pops up? Joe Biden's website. This is the top right here. It's not Trump's website. In fact, Trump's...
Well, yes, because they're campaigning on how awful it is. Because that actually allows them not to really have to commit to doing anything better. That's the nice thing about campaigning about how the alternative is worse, is it allows you to avoid making very many commitments of your own.
You can't even... I searched through both the Project 2025 book and the Heritage website for Trump's name. Never pops up.
Yeah, because the thing about the Heritage Foundation is they come up with this stuff. They prefer to have Republicans in office, certainly, but they're not specifically tying their agenda to any particular person being in office. Their people will make sure to lobby the shit out of whoever gets in to get them to do things. Like, I mean, fucking Obamacare was a Heritage Foundation project, for just to give an example. They don't care. They don't care who implements it. They prefer Republicans get in. That is who they're mostly aligned with, but they're mostly interested in getting their agenda through, and they are not going to refrain from pushing that agenda just because a Democrat gets in.
Not once. Because he's not a part of this. It's something completely separate. In fact, it does pop up when they're talking about Trump, but
wow, that's a weird place for his name. So okay. So Trump's name only shows up when they're talking about Trump. Checkmate.
They're saying when we get Trump in, we want to enact this to help him win and help him when he's in power, right? It's just a reference to him, but nowhere on the Heritage website Trump is mentioned at all.
Yeah, actually, part of that is because his brand is kind of toxic. But a big part of that is because these think tanks don't really care in the end who's in, as long as they can influence them to get their agenda through.
So when you look at this...
And also, let's just remember, this is like a... Let me just check, make sure before I say this, to be absolutely certain. Heritage Foundation, is it... Yeah, it's a 501c3. 501c3s cannot actually endorse a candidate. They're not, I mean, they may have preferences. Fucking Heritage Foundation certainly has preferences, but you lose your 501c3 status and your tax exemption if you outright say vote for this candidate, vote for this, vote against this candidate or whatever. So of course they're not going to openly make that kind of endorsement. Their entire fucking tax dodge depends on them not making that endorsement. But everybody knows that they prefer Republicans.
Obviously, look at the way this shows Project 2025.
Yeah, because they know that, I mean, if you look at, what the Heritage Foundation's agenda is, most of the people who would have any likelihood of voting for them will find it horrifying.
This looks like a bad movie. Roll
I
back
mean,
freedoms. National abortion ban. Abolish checks and balances. Gosh. It really is hyperbolic. It's so crazy.
This motherfucker's talking about okay, we saw him, his close reading of some documents on U.S. government science policy, and how the level-headed way that he reacted to all that. He does not get to call anybody hyperbolic.
Let's go over it. Look at this. Trump's plan, immediately a lie. Right? See, this is they're using that. It's Trump's plan to take your power, your control, and your money. Dude, it's so bad. The lies are...
Okay, so what's... I mean... Yeah, he is sort of, when pressed on it, says he's never heard of the Heritage Foundation or whatever like that, and that's obviously bullshit. But what's the lie exactly? Do you really think that he does not? I mean, it would be unusual for a Republican administration not to take notice of what the Heritage Foundation wants. I mean, it's actually kind of unusual for Democrats not to completely ignore them. Because, again, I mean, there's big money behind the Heritage Foundation, and the political class does what big money wants.
It's just, I can't even believe it at this point. It's actually surprising how bad this is. Donald Trump's plan for a full government takeover has been exposed.
I mean, exposed. I mean, that's a bit cute. I mean, this is a published document. I mean, it wasn't exposed. This isn't a secret document. Like, they put this on their website. You can read the fucking thing.
Scroll down to see see what's in it for yourself, and tell your friends. His Project 2025 agenda would strip away our freedoms. It includes a plan to have...
I mean, this is actually... I mean, it's hilarious to see him call this hyperbolic. Because it is the exact sort of language that the exact sort of language that he was using, talking about the fucking this making DEI and science scare campaign.
By people who used to work for Donald Trump that focuses on the first 180 days. Okay. They really want to drill home that it's Trump's plan. That this.
Do you think? I mean, I noticed... Do you really think that they want to drill that home? I mean, they have only mentioned that in, like, literally every fucking sentence that you've read so far. I think it's pretty clear that they are trying to drive that home, Weedlord. That's deep.
This is his idea. This is his agenda, which is not. And that is...
except for the bits that definitely are...
it's almost annoying how much they push that it's his, right? So they reference the book that I showed you, Project 2025, the mandate for leadership, right?
Yeah, that is, of course they reference that. That is what they're talking about. That is the thing they're talking about. That is the source material that they are using to talk about all of this. Of course they're going to reference it.
This is from the Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
They're the ones who put this out, because this is what they believe is the solutions.
They believe that providing solutions is the solutions. Especially when researching, developing, and promoting innovative solutions. So, like... Wait.
Out, because this is what they believe is... the solutions.
Well, no shit. Of course it's what they believe. You think that they would be proposing things that they do not consider to be the solutions? Like,
they
solutions to what?
This is the solutions to for what they think is the problems with the government.
No shit. Wow. You got there. Like, yes, that is literally what this is. That's wow. That is just such a profound analysis. Their policy proposals are what they think are the solutions to what they think are the problems. Wow, I mean, I can see why so many people listen to this guy.
Okay? It's not Trump's plan. Alright? Trump has nothing to do with it.
Except to the extent that he does.
I'm going to say that many times throughout this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I will admit, he says it way more convincingly than when Trump tries to say it.
Okay.
But that's probably partially because he only found out that there's a Heritage Foundation like 5 minutes ago.
180-day playbook. The time is short, and conservatives need a plan. The project will create a playbook of actions to be taken in the first 180 days of the new administration.
And again, I mean, this is literally what the Mandate for Leadership document is every 4 years. It is like it is a list of things to do in like the first 180 days. Every single time. And of course, it's all right-wing bullshit because that's what the Heritage Foundation is for. Right-wing bullshit.
Bring quick relief to Americans suffering from the left's devastating policies. It's pretty funny how this almost turns out to be an ad for the right. The plan begins with a sweeping takeover of the federal government to consolidate power under Donald Trump. Inside pages of dense policy proposals, their intentions become clear. Now, just look at the way that they worded that. Sweeping takeover of the federal government, full federal government, to consolidate power under Donald Trump. Again, it's all hyperbolic.
Again, you really don't need to be calling anything hyperbolic.
Just read what it says here. Mr. Trump and his associates have a broader goal to alter the balance.
Okay, this is actually a quote from a New York Times op-ed.
The power by
which, I mean, again, I have to say this is not a strength of the website. I mean, if you're going to, like, base your entire thing on how horrible the Heritage Foundation's proposals are, and if it's a Heritage Foundation proposal, it's probably horrible. That's not wrong. I mean, they do suck. They're horrible people. I mean, you should not be getting this far through the website without some direct quotes from the fucking document.
The president's authority over every part of the federal government now operates by... Okay, no, this is actually a misrepresentation because this is from the New York Times. In the Project 2025...
Well, okay, so you're going to give us the direct quotes. Remember, he said a minute ago he didn't read it, but now he's going to tell us what's in it.
What it actually is saying is the executive branch only, the leader of the executive branch, which would be the president...
Wow, good job. Gold star.
...have say over everyone in the executive branch. So, you know about the people that stay in their positions, these government workers that...
These government workers, yes, it's called the civil service.
They don't get elected, they're just working there.
Yeah, exactly, and the whole idea is you have the people who oversee the day-to-day, and then you have the people, and then you have your political appointees who do the big picture, and that's kind of how it fucking works.
They're behind the scenes. This is like when you think about the swamp in the government.
Wait, so you're saying the swamp is the civil service now?
This would be the grass. This would be the water. This would
So not the swamp.
Be the parasites living in the water, or
does he not know what a swamp is? I think Weedlord doesn't know what a swamp is.
Or like the dirt, at the muck, at the bottom, right? You can't just like empty the water, put clean water in, because the muck remains. The parasite.
Well, I mean, if the idea is to drain the swamp, obviously you're not putting more water in, but I mean, you're really gonna say that it's the civil servants? That's what you're gonna go with?
Are all still there.
Like the fucking postal workers and the like low-level bureaucrats who just follow policies that are determined from above in the first place?
It's not just the water that's dirty. It's all sorts of different things that are all combined. And these people were
Also, a swamp is a fucking delicate ecosystem, and maybe
in power. And I say in power because they really do have a lot of say. They have a lot of influence. They can choose not to provide the president information that might be vital for him to do his job.
Well, I mean, not really. Not unless there's a law that actually like creates that kind of a firewall.
Sound familiar? Well, that's because it is. In fact, Trump was in power and had people were holding information from him, including General Milley. What?
Like, wow, I mean, he's so well informed. This is totally the guy you should be taking your fucking political cues from.
Whatever, the guy lost a war and has more.
Which war? There've been a lot of those.
On his chest than Eisenhower. It's really an embarrassment when you look at it that way.
Wow, yeah, I mean, what?
Anyway, this is of course the New York Times, not being specific with what this actually means here.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a failure of this website, I have to say. Because by now, I mean, there are quotes, there are damning quotes in there. It's a Heritage Foundation document. There are always going to be extremely damning quotes because, again, horrible fucking people. So, like, you shouldn't be able to scroll this far and not have direct quotes from it. Yes, he is literally calling civil servants muck. I mean, and not even like he's not even saying like, I don't know, like the CIA or something like that. He's like just saying he said these government workers. It's like, yeah. So like that's like your fucking postal workers and people like that.
British Foundation was trying to say was the president.
Yeah, you see, he knows what the Heritage Foundation was trying to say because he, as he said, did not read the document.
Should be able to choose if someone isn't trustworthy, I'm going to replace you. Or the president should be able to replace them. When they say consolidating power, it's consolidating power of the executive branch. It has nothing to do with the judicial or the congressional.
Yeah, we already got that. But the point is, there's a whole category of federal employees who are civil servants. They don't, they answer to their direct bosses. They have a statutory mandate that they're following. It's a whole different process. Like, this guy, he doesn't know what civil servants are, apparently, apart from... He also has a very tenuous grasp on the concept of a swamp, I have to say.
3 branches of government, checks and balances. So to bring it back, now that we know that, this is what they say. But that's what it actually says in there, right?
So how do you know what it says in there? You just say you didn't read it.
They're taking it and making it seem like it's so much worse than it actually is. Reminder, this isn't even Trump's plan. This has nothing to do with Trump.
Oh, no, of course not.
Or even came up with any of this stuff. This is all the...
yeah, I mean, we can stipulate, I think, that Trump has never actually had an idea of his own.
Heritage Foundation, who are thinking this is probably the best way forward.
Yeah, I think that probably the stuff that they're proposing is what they think is the best way forward for the ruling class ghouls that they represent.
Fix things. They're probably right, because there is a lot of...
So then, if they're so right about this thing, and they're probably right, he'd never heard of these motherfuckers until he did this show. He just admitted that. He never read the document, but he's sure they're probably right. But if they're probably right, and therefore there's nothing, their plan is totally kosher, then why do you feel the need to distance Trump from it?
Bloat in the government. If you were listening to Elon Musk, and
totally somebody I would listen to on how the civil service works.
Donald Trump talk on Monday, they were talking exactly about the gluttony of the government and how much overspending that they're doing. And I mean,
which is just like overspending on what though? I'm guessing we're not talking about overspending on the military.
Twitter was super inflated, and Elon came in and fired 80% of the company.
And it ended up not being able to work because he fired all the people who knew how to do anything, and then he ended up having to rehire them. A lot of them anyway, because nothing functioned. He broke the two-factor authentication system. He broke all sorts of fucking things because he just thought they were bloatware, and he just deleted the fucking code.
And it's running better than ever. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Project 2025 is a plan to seize power within the federal government. No quote, no reference to any...
Yeah, I mean, again, this is definitely a weakness of this website. It is absolutely a weakness of this website, but especially because you could come up with fucking quotes.
Anything. This is just opinion. This is what they're saying. This is what they're claiming.
Oh, okay, finally got a quote. Reissue Trump's Schedule F executive order to permit discharge of non-performing employees. And now, one thing I'd note is these words "they attempted to do," which sounds like they tried to do it and they failed.
First, they make it easier to fire nonpartisan government employees, like they attempted to do at the end of Trump administration. I just explained it to you. That's exactly what that is a reference to.
Oh yeah, that's not actually good. I mean, making it easier to fire fucking workers generally isn't.
Reissue Trump's Schedule F executive order to permit discharge of non-performing employees. Again, this is from the mandate of leadership, and they're choosing to pick what this means.
Well, yes. Which would be a great point. So why don't we bring up the executive order? You can tell us that it doesn't mean that. I mean, of course the fucking Heritage Foundation will just use terms like non-performing.
Trump was trying to get rid of the people that were, it says non-performing, but I think not trustworthy. The people that were working against the sitting president. Those people should be fired. They should be discharged.
Oh, finally we get some quotes.
And then they replace them with politically appointed Trump loyalists. Okay.
And actually the quote does very specifically... It's worth noting, I mean, again, the actual document does not mention any specific president because the idea is they would like to see it implemented no matter by who. And also, because they're a 501c3, they can't outright endorse a candidate. So they have to hedge their bets in that way as well, because otherwise they lose their 501c3 status, and they would have to consider becoming a 501c4, and there are all sorts of restrictions on that. Well, not many actually. It's.
Let me just read what it says here.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be great. You can actually, you will then have read some of the fucking document you're talking about. That would be good since you're talking about it.
Modern conservative president's task is to limit, control, and direct the executive branch.
Well, I mean, that's like literally the job of the president in general is to do those things.
Makes sense. The great challenge confronting a conservative president is the existential need for aggressive use of the vast powers of the executive branch. Success in meeting that challenge will require a rare combination of boldness and self-denial. Boldness to bend or break the bureaucracy to the president's will.
Yes, exactly.
Well, people were calling Trump a bull in a china shop, but he really wasn't able to do that because of the bureaucracy that he was dealing with.
No, I mean, amongst other things. But, I just noticed the time. It is time for me to wrap up. Thanks to everyone. See, bueno, primero hay que saber que este chaval es facho. A él le encanta Trump. Bueno, y la segunda cosa que hay que entender es que es muy re huevón. No sabe nada de nada. No ha leído ni una weá. Está hablando de cosas que no entiende. Solo porque Tim Pool o algún otro weón ha hablado de eso en su presencia. Y es completamente ahueonado. So I mean, yes, he's the guy who, like, Tim Pool doesn't know anything, but he manages to sound like he kind of knows things, but he doesn't. This guy doesn't know anything, and he doesn't sound like he knows anything either. But I just noticed the time. It is time for me to wrap up. Thanks to everyone for joining in. Let me just drop the link to the Discord for anyone who isn't there already and would like to be. Where we can keep in touch in between streams. And let me just drop a little plug of the Inessa Armand translation project. Which you can find on my Patreon. They are public posts. You will find the first translations into English of the essays and speeches of Inessa Armand. I'm still working on other aspects of it. There are like 2 more essays to translate, and then there are a whole bunch of letters and things like that. I'm trying to raise a total of $8,500 to cover all of the expenses of doing the project. I need about $4,500 more, roughly. Let me just drop this as well. So if you want to support that project, I very much appreciate people joining my Patreon or one-off contributions. It's all very much appreciated. If you can't, don't sweat it. I understand. These are shitty times. In any case, I will be back on Friday at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you all then.